Welcome all of you to this lecture series on the course Solid State Devices. I am Dr. Simi Zarin Sleba from the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology. This lecture is on the topic Excess Carriers in Semiconductors from the first module of the course. The main topics covered under excess carriers in semiconductors is generation of excess carriers, some of the recombination mechanisms, and about quasi-Fermi level. Now, before going into the main point, I would like to recall one of the important laws, that is the law of mass action, which you have already studied in 12th class. It states that in a semiconductor, the product of the number of electrons in a conduction band and the number of holes in the valence band is constant at a fixed temperature and is independent of the amount of donor and acceptor impurities added. Mathematically, this law can be expressed as the number of electrons N into number of holes P is equal to Ni square. Ni is the intrinsic carrier concentration. The law of mass action is true for both intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductors. In intrinsic semiconductors, we know that electrons and holes are generated in pairs. So the number of electrons will be equal to the number of holes, which is equal to the intrinsic carrier concentration. Now, extrinsic semiconductors are of two types, N-type and P-type. In N-type semiconductor, the number of electrons will be very much higher than the number of holes, but according to law of mass action, their product is a constant which is equal to Ni square. Similarly, for P-type semiconductor also, the number of holes is larger compared to the number of electrons, but the product is a constant. The law of mass action is the mathematical expression is given as equation number 1. Another thing to be kept in mind is that at a given temperature, if steady state carrier concentration is maintained, the rate at which electron hole pairs are generated will be the same as the rate of recombination of electrons and holes. That is, the recombination rate Ri will be equal to the generation rate Gi. So, at any temperature, the rate of recombination of electrons and holes Ri is proportional to the equilibrium concentration of electrons No and the equilibrium concentration of holes Po. Again, the proportionality constant is denoted as alpha R as this. So, Ri equal to Gi, that will be proportional to N0 into P0, and the proportionality constant is alpha R. This is given as equation 2. Now coming to our topic of discussion, excess charge carriers in semiconductors. In most of the semiconductor devices, the charge carriers, that is electrons and holes, will be in excess compared to the thermal equilibrium values. These excess charge carriers can be created by any of these methods like optical excitation, electron bombardment, or injection across a forward biased PN junction. These excess charge carriers can dominate the conduction process in the semiconductor material. Now first we will try to understand the phenomenon of optical absorption which generates excess charge carriers. In an experiment, photons of selected wavelength are directed at a semiconductor sample and the relative transmission of various photons is observed. So it is observed that photons having an energy h nu greater than the band gap energy of the semiconductor are absorbed into the semiconductor, whereas the photons with energy having energy lesser than the band gap energy are transmitted through the semiconductor without getting absorbed. To understand the phenomena of excess carrier generation using optical absorption technique, an experiment is conducted where photons of selected wavelength are directed at a semiconductor sample and relative transmission of the various photons is observed. Now, it is observed that photons having an energy h nu greater than the band gap energy of the semiconductor is absorbed into the semiconductor, whereas the photons with energy lesser than the band gap energy are transmitted through the semiconductor without getting absorbed. By absorbing this energy of the photons, electrons from the valence band are excited to the conduction band. The electrons excited to the conduction band by optical absorption may initially have more energy than is common for conduction band electrons. The electrons and holes created by the absorption process are excess carriers. These electrons and holes eventually recombine. But before they recombine, the excess electrons present in the conduction band and the free holes present in the valence band contribute to the conductivity of the material. Optical absorption of a photon with energy greater than the band gap energy of the semiconductor is shown in this energy band diagram in 3 steps: A, B, and C. The first step is when an electron hole pair is created during photon absorption, that is step A, where the free electron moves from the valence band to the conduction band. This excited electron will be having a higher energy compared to the common conduction band electrons, which are at this level. Now the second step is B, where the excited electron gives up its energy to the lattice by scattering events and moves to the energy level of the common conduction band electrons, that is over here. And the third step is marked as C, where eventually the electron recombines with a hole in the valence band. The intensity of light transmitted through a semiconductor sample of thickness L can be determined using an optical absorption experiment. For this, let us assume that a photon beam of intensity I0 is directed at a sample of thickness L, and the beam contains only photons of wavelength lambda. As the beam passes through the sample, its intensity at a distance x from the surface can be calculated by considering the probability of absorption within any increment distance dx. We can say that the degradation of intensity minus dix by dx is proportional to the intensity remaining at x. This can be mathematically written as minus dix by dx is equal to alpha into ix. Alpha is the proportionality constant, which is called the absorption coefficient. The negative sign on the left hand side indicates the degradation of light intensity. The solution to this equation is obtained as Ix is equal to I0 e raised to minus alpha x. Therefore, the intensity of light transmitted through the semiconductor sample of thickness L is obtained by substituting x equal to L in this equation. Therefore, I of t is equal to I0 e raised to minus alpha L. In this graph, a typical plot of the absorption coefficient alpha against the wavelength of incident light is shown. Here it is seen that as lambda increases, the wavelength increases, the absorption is negligible. Also, it is to be noted that there is considerable absorption for incident light of energy greater than the band gap energy Eg. This figure indicates the band gap energies of some of the common semiconductors relative to the visible, infrared and ultraviolet portions of the spectrum. Here we observe that gallium arsenide, silicon, germanium, etc. lie outside the visible spectrum and they are in the infrared region. Other semiconductors such as gallium phosphide and cadmium sulfide have band gaps wide enough to pass photons in the visible range. We should note that a semiconductor absorbs photons with energies equal to the band gap or larger than the band gap. Thus, silicon absorbs not only band gap light in the infrared region but also shorter wavelengths, including those in the visible part of the spectrum. When the excess charge carriers generated in a semiconductor are excited into higher energy levels from which they fall back to their equilibrium states by recombination, light can be given off by the material. Many of the semiconductors are well suited for light emission, particularly the compound semiconductors with direct band gaps. So the general property of light emission is called luminescence. Luminescence is again subdivided according to the excitation mechanism. If the carriers are excited by absorption of light or photons, then it is called photoluminescence. If the carrier excitation is by bombardment with high energy electrons, then it is called cathodoluminescence. And the third category is electroluminescence, where the carriers are excited by introduction of current. These three are the most important carrier excitation methods used for device applications. The simplest example of light emission from a semiconductor occurs for direct excitation and recombination of an electron-hole pair, as shown in this figure. Figure A shows a direct electron transition. Here, recombination of electrons with holes takes place directly from the conduction band to the valence band, and light is given off in this process. In the beginning of this lecture, I mentioned that for steady state excitation, the generation and recombination of electron-hole pairs occurs at the same rate. So in this case, one photon is emitted for each photon that is absorbed into the semiconductor. Direct recombination of electron-hole pairs is a very fast process. The mean lifetime of an electron-hole pair is of the order of 10 raised to minus 8 seconds. So, soon after the excitation is stopped, within 10 raised to minus 8 seconds itself, the emission of photons also stops. Such fast luminescent process is referred to as fluorescence. In some materials, photon emission continues for seconds or even minutes after the excitation is removed. These slow processes are called phosphorescence, and the materials that exhibit phosphorescence are called phosphors. In these materials, The band gap may contain a defect level which has a tendency to temporarily capture electrons from the conduction band. The slow process of excitation and recombination is shown in 5 steps in this figure. The first step is marked as A, that is an incoming photon which has an energy greater than the band gap energy is absorbed and it will create an electron hole pair. So this electron will move from the valence band to the conduction band. That is step A. The second is step B, where the excited electron gives up the energy to the lattice by scattering until it reaches near the bottom of the conduction band. That is, it will lose its high energy to the lattice and move to this position, which is the lowest most energy level of the conduction band. In this energy band diagram shown here, there exists an impurity level in the energy gap, which is marked as ET. So the next step is the excited electron from the conduction band is trapped by this impurity level ET, and it remains trapped until it can be thermally re-excited back to the conduction band. That constitutes step C and D. After D, the excited electron trapped in the impurity level will be re-excited back to the conduction band. Then finally, the direct recombination occurs as the electron falls to an empty state in the valence band, like this. This is step E, and on falling to the empty state in the valence band, the electron gives off a photon. The energy of that photon is marked as h nu 2. This energy level ET is a trap, and if the probability of thermal re-excitation of the electron from the trap is very small, then there can be a very long delay time between excitation and recombination. If the trapping probability is greater than the probability of recombination, an electron can make several trips between the trap and the conduction band before recombination finally occurs. In such materials, the phosphorescent light persists for a longer time even after the excitation is removed. There are many ways by which electrical energy can be used to generate photon emission in a solid. In LEDs, an electric current causes the injection of minority carriers into regions of the crystal where they can recombine with majority carriers. This results in the emission of recombination radiation, and this effect is called injection electroluminescence. When excess electron hole pairs are generated in a semiconductor, the conductivity of the semiconductor increases. The conductivity of a semiconductor with electrons and holes is given by the formula sigma is equal to Q into N mu N plus P mu P. Mu N and mu P are the mobilities of electrons and holes respectively. If the excess carriers are generated using optical luminescence, then the increase in conductivity is called photoconductivity. Another term to be understood is carrier lifetime. It is defined as the average time taken by excess carriers to recombine. Basically, there are two recombination mechanisms. One is direct recombination and the other one is indirect recombination, which we will see in detail. In direct recombination, electrons from the conduction band recombine with holes in the valence band. This results in a decay of excess population of electrons and holes. The energy lost by the electrons during recombination is given up as a photon. The recombination rate of electrons at any time t will be proportional to the number of electrons remaining at time t, that is denoted as n of t, and also the number of holes, that is denoted as p of t, and the proportionality constant is alpha r. The net rate of change in electron concentration in the conduction band is obtained by the thermal generation rate given by equation 2 minus the recombination rate, that is given in this equation. We assume that excess electrons and holes are created at time t equal to 0. The initial excess electron and hole concentrations delta n and delta p are assumed to be equal. Now, since electrons and holes recombine in pairs, as the number of electrons reduces, so does the number of holes. So the instantaneous concentration of excess carriers delta nt and delta pt are also equal. So we can find out the total concentration of equation 3 in terms of the equilibrium values N0 and P0 and excess carrier concentration, which is delta N of T, which is equal to delta PT. And using equation 1, that is the first previous equation, N0 P0 is equal to Ni square. By substituting these in equation 3, we will arrive at d by dt of n of t is equal to alpha r into n0 plus p0 into delta nt plus delta n square t. This is numbered as equation number 4. To evaluate equation 4, we can make some approximations. For example, if the excess carrier concentration is very small, we can neglect the delta n square term. Similarly, if the material is extrinsic, we can neglect the term representing equilibrium minority carriers. For example, if the semiconductor is p-type, then the majority carriers will be holes. The number of holes P0 will be very much greater than electrons N0. So, taking all these approximations into consideration, the equation 4 becomes d by dt of delta nt is equal to minus alpha r P0 delta nt. That is equation number 5. The solution to this equation is an exponential decay from the original carrier concentration delta n. So the delta nt is obtained as delta n e raised to minus alpha r p0 by into tau. Tau is the decay constant, which is equal to alpha 1 by alpha r p0. It is also called the recombination lifetime. In n-type material, the decay of excess holes also takes the decay constant tau p, which is equal to the reciprocal of alpha r n0. For direct recombinations, the decay time of excess majority carriers is the same as that of minority carriers. The general expression for carrier lifetime is given in equation 7, which is valid for N or P-type material if injection level is low. The decay of excess electrons and holes by recombination for a P-type material is plotted here. Indirect recombination takes place in column 4 semiconductors and certain compounds. In these semiconductors, there exists a recombination level within the band gap. Majority of the recombination events in indirect materials occurs via this recombination level. The resulting energy is given up to the lattice as heat and not as light. Any impurity or lattice defect can serve as a recombination center if it is capable of receiving a carrier of one type and subsequently capturing the opposite type of carrier. That is, first if it has received a hole, then subsequent capturing of an electron is required, thereby annihilating the pair. Energy band diagram of a semiconductor is shown in this figure, where a recombination center ER, denoted by ER, is present in the forbidden energy gap. At equilibrium, this recombination center ER is filled with charge carriers. Now let us see the various steps in indirect recombination through this recombination center ER. The first step is hole capture, that is, a hole is captured at the recombination center ER. This is equivalent to an electron at ER falling to the valence band, leaving behind an empty state in the ER. The subsequent step is electron capture, that is, when a conduction band electron subsequently falls to the empty state in ER, recombination takes place. Energy is given up by the recombining electron as heat to the lattice in both the cases. When both of these events have occurred, recombination center is back to its original state. That is, electron and hole have recombined. It is just as in the previous state, but the difference is that an electron-hole pair is missing. So in the case of indirect recombination, finding out the carrier lifetime is more complicated, mainly because of unequal timings for capturing each type of carrier. Like if an electron capture does not follow immediately after a hole is captured, the hole may be thermally re-excited to the valence band. Energy required for this is equivalent to a valence band electron being raised to the empty state in the recombination center, ET. This delays recombination, and because since the hole must be captured again before recombination can be completed, because the hole that existed earlier has gone to the valence band. So when a carrier is trapped temporarily at a recombination center and then it is re-excited without recombination, that process is called temporary trapping. If a recombination center, after capturing one type of carrier, most probably the next event is re-excitation of the carrier, then that recombination center is called trapping center. Now, if the recombination center, the most probable next event is capture of opposite type of carrier, then it is called recombination center. Recombination can be slow or fast depending on the average time the first carrier is held before the second carrier is captured. More energy is required to re-excite a trapped electron from a center near the middle of the gap to the conduction band than a level closer to the conduction band. From this figure, we can see that some impurities introduce more than one level of recombination centers in the band gap. Like for example, zinc introduces a level Zn minus, that is 0.31 electron volt above the valence band, this one, and also a second level near the middle of the band gap. So more than one recombination centers is also possible to be introduced by some of the impurities. The effects of recombination and trapping can be measured by a photoconductive decay experiment. As the figure shows, a population of excess electrons and holes disappears with a decay constant characteristic of the particular recombination process. The conductivity of the sample during the decay is given by sigma of T, that is equation 8. Therefore, the time dependence of the carrier concentrations can be monitored by recording the sample resistance as a function of time. As we have seen in the initial slides, a semiconductor at thermal equilibrium experiences thermal generation of electron-hole pairs at a rate Gt, which is equal to Gi. From equation number 2 itself, we know that this thermal generation is balanced by the recombination rate so that the equilibrium concentrations of the carriers N0 and P0 are maintained. From this, we write this equation Gt is equal to Gi, that is equal to alpha r Ni square, that which is equal to alpha r N0 P0. If a steady light is shown on the sample, GOP will be added to the thermal generation. This is the generation due to optical illumination. So our equation will be modified as GT plus GOP is equal to alpha R NP. N will be equal to N0 plus delta N. P will be equal to P0 plus delta P. So this constitutes equation number 9. If steady state recombination is happening and there is no trapping, then delta in N will be equal to delta P. So our equation becomes as given in equation number 10. From equation number 2, alpha R N0 P0 is equal to GT, and if we neglect delta N square terms for low level injection, equation 10 becomes GOP is equal to alpha R N0 plus P0 into delta N. This can be expressed in terms of the decay time tau N, which is the reciprocal of alpha R and N0 plus P0. Now students, you will be recalling the expressions for equilibrium concentrations of electrons and holes, which is given in these equations N0 and P0. N0 is equal to Ni into e raised to Ef minus Ei by kT, whereas P0 is equal to Ni into e raised to Ei minus Ef by kT. This Ef is the Fermi level. But Ef in these equations is meaningful only when no excess carriers are present. But when excess carriers are present, separate quasi-Fermi levels Fn and Fp for electrons and holes are taken. So the resulting carrier concentrations will be N is equal to Ni e raised to Fn minus Ei by kT, and P is equal to Ni e raised to Ei minus Fp by kT. This will be the new electron and hole concentrations considering excess carriers too. The quasi-Fermi levels Fn and Fp are the steady state analogues of the equilibrium Fermi level Ef. When excess carriers are present, deviations of Fn and Fp from the original Fermi level EF, indicate how far electrons and hole populations are from the equilibrium values N0 and P0. Fn minus Fp is a direct measure of the deviation from equilibrium. At equilibrium, Fn will be equal to Fp, that is equal to the Fermi level EF. So in this lecture, we have seen different mechanisms of generation of excess electrons and holes in semiconductors, the different recombination mechanisms, indirect and direct recombination of electrons and holes. Also, you have been introduced to quasi-Fermi levels Fn and Fp, which replace the Fermi level EF in the energy band diagram, where excess carriers are also coming into being. With this, I end this lecture. Thank you for your patient listening.